Enlightenment Through the Storm, a journey of spiritual strength, self-discovery, and unshakable inner peace, by David Rousseau. Introduction. When the sky breaks. There are moments in every life when the sky darkens without warning. A sudden change, a painful loss, a door that closes when you were certain it would open. The winds rise, plans unravel, the ground beneath carefully built expectations begins to tremble. And in those moments, almost every human heart asks the same quiet question: why is this happening to me? For most of us, storms feel like interruptions, cruel detours from the life we were trying to build. We resist them, we fear them, we pray for them to pass as quickly as possible. But what if the storm is not a punishment? What if it is an invitation? Throughout history, the greatest spiritual traditions have spoken about the storm not as an enemy, but as a passage. In the trials described in the Book of Job, in the battlefield dialogue of the Bhagavad Gita, and in the reflections of ancient philosophers, the same truth quietly appears again and again. Adversity often precedes awakening. Storms have a strange way of revealing things calm weather never could. They expose what is fragile. They strip away illusions. They force us to confront the deeper questions we often avoid when life feels comfortable. Who am I, really? What truly matters? What remains when everything familiar is shaken? When life is smooth and predictable, the soul tends to drift into sleep. Routine becomes comfort, and comfort becomes unconscious living. But when the storm arrives, something inside us begins to stir. Awareness awakens. Suddenly, we are no longer just moving through life automatically. We begin searching, reflecting, questioning, growing. The storm, painful as it may be, becomes the very thing that calls us back to ourselves. This audiobook is not about avoiding storms. No philosophy, belief system, or spiritual practice can guarantee a life without hardship. Loss, uncertainty, and challenge are woven into the fabric of human experience. Instead, this journey about how we walk through those storms. Because the truth is this: you are not here merely to survive adversity. You are here to be transformed by it. Within every storm lies the potential for a deeper strength, a clearer perspective, a wiser version of yourself that could not exist without the very challenges you once feared. The storm does not arrive to destroy who you are. Often, it arrives to reveal who you truly are beneath everything that is temporary. Beneath the roles, beneath the expectations, beneath the stories you have been told about yourself, there is a deeper center within you, a quiet place untouched by chaos, a place of awareness, of resilience, of unshakable peace. And it is in the heart of life's storms that many people discover this place for the very first time. So, if you are listening to this while facing uncertainty, if life has recently challenged your faith, your plans, or your sense of direction, you are not alone, and you are not broken. You may simply be standing at the beginning of one of the most profound transformations of your life, because storms, as frightening as they seem, often carry an unexpected gift. They strip away everything that is not essential, until only truth remains. And when the clouds finally begin to part, the person who steps forward is rarely the same one who entered the storm. They are stronger, clearer, more awake. This is the journey you are about to begin, a journey through disruption, surrender, resilience, and awakening, a journey not away from the storm, but through it. So take a breath, let the wind blow, let the rain fall, let the thunder speak, because within the storm, something powerful is already unfolding, and it may just change your life. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Sacred Disruption. Every awakening begins with disruption. Most people imagine spiritual growth as something gentle, a quiet meditation, a peaceful retreat, a moment of calm insight that arrives without struggle. But life rarely awakens us that way. More often, awakening begins when something breaks. A relationship ends. A career path suddenly changes. A belief you once trusted no longer feels true. The structure of your life, the routines, the expectations, the identity you carefully built, begins to shift beneath your feet. At first, disruption feels like chaos. It feels unfair. It feels like something has gone wrong. But spiritual traditions across centuries have suggested something very different. What feels like collapse is often the beginning of clarity. Human beings are creatures of habit. When life is comfortable and predictable, the mind settles into patterns. We stop questioning. We stop exploring deeper meaning. We drift into a kind of spiritual sleep, moving through days guided by routine, rather than awareness. Comfort can quietly numb the deeper parts of the soul, but disruption changes everything. When the familiar cracks open, attention sharpens. Suddenly, you are forced to look at life differently. Questions you once avoided rise to the surface. Who am I beyond my roles? What truly matters? What direction is my life meant to take? The storm interrupts the autopilot. This is why so many people trace their greatest personal growth back to their most difficult moments. What once seemed like devastation later reveals itself as transformation. The job loss that forced a new path, the heartbreak that awakened deeper self-worth, the failure that redirected life towards something more meaningful. In hindsight, what once felt like destruction often turns out to be divine redirection. Disruption clears space. It removes outdated identities, fragile expectations, and illusions of certainty that quietly limit who we can become. Think of a forest after a wildfire. At first glance, the destruction appears absolute. Trees are blackened, the ground is bare, the landscape feels empty. But beneath the soil, something remarkable is happening. Seeds that could never open under ordinary conditions suddenly begin to grow. The fire, devastating as it appears, creates the conditions for an entirely new ecosystem to emerge. The same principle exists within the human spirit. Sometimes the life you are meant to live cannot grow within the life you are currently holding onto. So the storm arrives, not as punishment, but as preparation. Sacred disruption does not come to erase your path. It comes to reveal a deeper one. Of course, this realization rarely appears immediately. In the middle of upheaval, clarity is often clouded by fear and confusion. The mind wants answers right away. It wants certainty, resolution, and control. But transformation rarely follows a schedule. Growth unfolds slowly, often invisibly at first. During disruption, the most powerful shift you can make is simple but profound. Instead of asking the question most people ask during hardship, why is this happening to me? Try asking a different question. What is this here to teach me? That question changes everything. It transforms the storm from an enemy into a teacher. Suddenly, every challenge becomes information. Every setback becomes instruction. Every moment of discomfort becomes an opportunity to learn something deeper about yourself. You begin to see patterns you once ignored. You begin to recognize strengths you didn't know you possessed. You begin to understand that within disruption lies direction. The sacred disruption is not random. It is the moment life shakes you awake. It is the moment the old identity cracks open so a new one can begin to emerge. It is the moment the storm enters your life not to destroy you, but to reveal the deeper power that has been waiting inside you all along. And once that awakening begins, something remarkable happens. You no longer fear disruption the way you once did, because you begin to understand a truth that many never discover. Sometimes the very thing that shatters your life is the same force that sets your soul free. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. Human beings have a deep desire for certainty. We make plans, we build schedules, we set goals and imagine the future unfolding exactly as we designed it. Control gives us comfort. It creates the feeling that life is predictable, manageable, and safe. But sooner or later, life reminds us of something we often forget. Control is far more fragile than we believe. A phone call can change everything. A sudden event can redirect years of planning. A single moment can alter the path we thought we were certain to follow. And when those moments arrive, many people experience an overwhelming sense of frustration or fear. Not necessarily because of what happened, but because what happened was not supposed to happen. The mind resists uncertainty. It tells us that if we plan carefully enough, work hard enough, and prepare for every possible outcome, we can shape life exactly as we want it to be. But life is not a machine. It is a living, unfolding process filled with variables we cannot predict and forces we cannot control. Storms reveal this truth very clearly. No matter how strong a person may be, no one controls the weather. Yet within that realization lies a powerful form of freedom, because while you cannot control the external storm, there is something far more important that remains within your power, your response. You cannot control every event that enters your life, but you can control the way you interpret it, the meaning you give it, and the energy you bring to it. This is where true power lives. Many of the greatest spiritual teachers throughout history have emphasized this idea. They understood that suffering often grows not from the event itself, but from the resistance we create against it. We tell ourselves life must go a certain way, and when it does not, we fight reality. But reality does not change simply because we resist it. Instead, resistance drains our energy, clouds our judgment, and deepens our pain. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive or careless. It does not mean abandoning effort or responsibility. It means recognizing the difference between what you can influence and what you cannot. When you release the illusion that everything must unfold according to your expectations, you create space for something greater. Adaptability. Adaptability is one of the most powerful spiritual strengths a person can develop. Think about the difference between a rigid branch and a flexible one. During a powerful windstorm, the rigid branch fights the wind with all its strength until it snaps. The flexible branch bends. It moves with the wind rather than against it, and because of that flexibility, it survives. Human resilience works the same way. When life changes direction, the ability to adjust, to breathe, and to remain centered becomes far more valuable than the illusion of control. Peace is not created by forcing life to behave exactly as you want it to. Peace emerges when you learn how to remain steady within uncertainty. When you stop trying to control every outcome, you begin to notice something remarkable. Life still moves forward, opportunities still appear, unexpected paths open that you never could have planned. Sometimes the very detours you resisted become the roads that lead you exactly where you needed to go. The storm may take away the illusion of control, but in doing so, it gives you something far more powerful. Trust. Trust in your ability to navigate whatever arrives. Trust in the wisdom you gain through experience. Trust that even when the future is uncertain, you possess the strength to meet it. And once you begin to trust life instead of trying to dominate it, something inside you relaxes. The mind becomes quieter, the heart becomes lighter, and the storm, while still powerful, no longer feels like something you must defeat. It becomes something you learn to walk through with awareness, courage, and calm, because the greatest strength is not controlling the wind. The greatest strength is learning how to stand within it without losing yourself. Chapter 3. The Inner Witness. Within every human being, there exists a quiet place that cannot be shaken by the storm. Most people, however, spend their lives unaware of it. When difficulties arise, the mind immediately reacts. Thoughts begin racing. Fear appears. Worrying multiplies. One concern leads to another until the inner world becomes as chaotic as the storm outside. In these moments, it feels as if you are your thoughts, as if you are your anxiety, as if you are the fear moving through your mind. But there is a deeper truth that many spiritual traditions have pointed toward for thousands of years. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness observing them. This awareness is what many teachers describe as the inner witness, the silent presence within you that simply watches, without panic and without judgment. The mind speaks. Emotions rise and fall. Circumstances change. But the witness remains steady. Most people have experienced brief glimpses of this state without realizing it. Perhaps during a moment of deep reflection, when you suddenly notice your own thoughts as if you were observing them from a distance, you might think, "Why am I worrying so much about this?" Or "Why am I reacting this way?" That moment of observation is powerful, because in that moment, you are no longer trapped inside the storm of your thinking. You are standing outside it. The inner witness creates space between who you are and what you experience. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by every emotional wave, you begin to see emotions as temporary movements within a much larger ocean. Fear comes, fear goes, anger appears, anger fades, uncertainty rises. Uncertainty eventually dissolves, like clouds drifting across the sky. Thoughts and emotions pass through awareness, but they are not the sky itself. You are the sky. The storm may darken it for a time, but the vast openness above the clouds always remains. Developing this awareness is one of the most powerful steps on the path of spiritual growth. It allows you to move through challenges with clarity rather than panic. When the inner witness awakens, something remarkable happens. Instead of reacting immediately to every situation, you begin to pause. You observe, you breathe, and within that pause, wisdom has room to appear. You start to notice the patterns of your mind, the habits of worrying, the stories you repeat, the assumptions that may not even be true. Rather than being controlled by these patterns, you begin to see them for what they are, temporary thoughts passing through consciousness. This shift may seem subtle, but its impact is profound. When you realize that you are not defined by every thought or emotion that enters your mind, the storm loses much of its power over you. Challenges still occur, difficult moments still arise, but they no longer define your identity. They become experiences, not prisons. The inner witness also brings compassion. When you observe your own struggles with awareness rather than judgment, you begin to treat yourself with the same kindness you might offer a close friend. Instead of criticizing yourself for feeling afraid or uncertain, you acknowledge the experience with understanding, and from that place of understanding, healing begins. This quiet observer within you has always been present. It does not need to be created. It only needs to be noticed. Each moment of stillness strengthens it. Each moment of reflection deepens it. Each moment you step back and observe rather than react, the witness grows clearer. Eventually, even in the middle of life's most powerful storms, you remember something important. You are not the wind. You are not the thunder. You are the awareness standing calmly within it all. And when you learn to rest in that awareness, you discover a strength that circumstances cannot take away, a stillness that chaos cannot break, a peace that has been quietly waiting within you all along. Chapter 4: Pain as a Portal. Pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the human journey. When it appears, our first instinct is almost always the same: avoid it, numb it, escape it, or make it disappear as quickly as possible. We distract ourselves, suppress our feelings, or search desperately for something that will remove the discomfort. This reaction is natural. Pain is uncomfortable, and the mind is designed to protect us from suffering. But what if pain is not only something to escape? What if pain is also a doorway? Throughout nature, transformation rarely happens without pressure. A seed must break open before it becomes a tree. Muscles must experience strain before they grow stronger. Even a diamond forms under immense heat and compression. Growth, by its very nature, requires change, and change often brings discomfort. In the same way, emotional and spiritual pain can signal that something within you is shifting. Perhaps an old belief is being challenged. Perhaps a version of yourself that once served you is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Perhaps life is inviting you to step beyond a limitation you have carried for years. Pain often appears at the edge of transformation, yet many people misunderstand this moment. Instead of listening to what the pain is trying to reveal, they immediately try to silence it. Imagine if a fire alarm went off in a building, and instead of investigating the source of the signal, someone simply removed the batteries. The noise would stop, but the danger would remain. Pain works in a similar way. It is a signal. It draws attention to something within your life that requires awareness, reflection, or change. When you begin to approach pain with curiosity rather than resistance, something remarkable happens. The experience begins to shift. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" you start asking a deeper question. What is this feeling trying to show me? Sometimes pain reveals that you have been holding onto something that no longer serves your growth, a relationship, a belief, or a pattern of behavior. Sometimes it reveals a deeper need that has been ignored for too long, the need for rest, honesty, courage, or self-respect. And sometimes pain simply invites you to slow down, breathe, and reconnect with yourself in a way that everyday life rarely allows. When approached with awareness, pain becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. It strips away illusions. It exposes truths we might otherwise avoid. It asks us to grow beyond the comfort of what we once knew. This does not mean pain should be romanticized or sought out. Life will naturally provide its share of challenges without our invitation. But when pain does arrive, the way we respond to it determines whether it becomes a burden or a portal. A burden keeps us stuck in resentment, blame, and resistance. A portal invites us to step through the experience with openness and courage. Many of the most compassionate, wise, and resilient individuals did not develop their strength during easy seasons of life. Their depth was shaped through hardship, loss, and moments that forced them to confront their own limitations. Pain, when faced honestly, expands the heart. It deepens empathy for others. It reminds us of our shared humanity and our incredible capacity to endure and grow. In time, you may look back on certain moments of struggle and realize something surprising. Those moments did not weaken you. They refined you. They removed what was false and revealed what was real. The storm stripped away the identities and expectations that no longer belonged to you, leaving behind something stronger and more authentic. Pain, difficult as it may be, can become one of the most powerful catalysts for awakening, because on the other side of that doorway lies a version of you that understands life more deeply and carries a strength that could only have been discovered by walking through the fire. And once you realize this truth, pain loses its power to define you. Instead, it becomes part of the path that leads you toward your truest self. Chapter 5: Surrender is Strength. The word surrender often carries the wrong meaning in our minds. Many people hear it and immediately think of defeat, giving up, losing control, admitting weakness. In a world that constantly celebrates force, determination, and relentless effort, surrender can sound like the opposite of strength. But spiritual wisdom has long taught a very different truth. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is alignment. It is the moment you stop fighting reality and begin cooperating with it. When storms appear in life, the instinct of the mind is to resist. We argue with circumstances. We replay events over and over in our thoughts. We imagine how things should have happened rather than accepting what has already unfolded. This inner resistance consumes enormous amounts of energy. Yet the reality remains unchanged. The storm continues. The past cannot be rewritten, and the more tightly we try to control what cannot be controlled, the more exhausted we become. Surrender begins when we recognize this truth. It is the quiet decision to release the struggle against what already is, not because we are powerless, but because we understand that fighting reality only deepens our suffering. Consider how nature responds to powerful forces. During a hurricane, rigid structures often collapse under pressure, but certain trees survive because they bend. Their flexibility allows them to move with the wind rather than against it. They yield, but they do not break. Surrender works the same way within the human spirit. It allows you to bend without losing yourself. When you surrender, you are not abandoning your hopes or your effort. You are simply letting go of the need to control every detail of how life unfolds. You continue to move forward. You continue to act, but you do so with a sense of trust rather than tension. This shift opens the door to clarity. When the mind stops fighting what is already happening, it becomes quieter. In that quiet space, insight begins to appear. You begin to see possibilities that resistance once hid from view. You notice opportunities that fear previously obscured. You recognize that even within uncertainty, guidance often exists. Subtle signals, intuitive nudges, small openings that gently lead you toward your next step. Surrender also teaches humility. It reminds us that life is larger than our personal plans. There are forces at work beyond what we can fully understand: timing, circumstance, connection, and mystery. When we release the illusion that we must control everything, we begin to trust that life may be guiding us in ways we cannot yet see. Many people discover that the moments when they finally let go of their tightest expectations are the same moments when unexpected breakthroughs begin to appear. The path clears, the mind relaxes, and life begins to flow again. Surrender does not mean abandoning responsibility for your life. It means taking responsibility for your energy, your attitude, and your willingness to adapt. You still walk forward with intention. You still grow, but you do so with openness instead of resistance. In this openness, strength naturally grows, because true strength is not rigid control. True strength is the ability to remain centered even when life changes direction. It is the courage to trust the unfolding process, even when you cannot see the entire path ahead. And when you practice surrender, you begin to realize something quietly profound. You were never meant to carry the entire storm on your shoulders. You were meant to walk through it, learning, adapting, and trusting that something larger is guiding the journey. Surrender allows you to move with life instead of against it. And when that shift happens, the storm may still be present, but inside you, a new sense of calm begins to rise. A calm that does not come from controlling the wind, but from learning how to stand peacefully within it. Chapter 6. The Dark Night of the Soul. There are moments in the spiritual journey when everything that once felt certain begins to fade. Beliefs that once gave you comfort no longer feel solid. Motivation becomes quiet. The sense of direction that once guided your life seems to disappear into silence. This stage can feel deeply unsettling. It may feel as though you have lost something important, your faith, your clarity, or even a part of your identity. Questions that once had answers now feel open and unresolved. Many people, when entering this phase, fear that they are moving backward, but in truth, this experience has been described for centuries by mystics, philosophers, and seekers as a profound stage of transformation known as the Dark Night of the Soul. Despite its name, the Dark Night is not a failure. It is a purification. Earlier in life, we often build our identity around external structures, roles, achievements, beliefs, and expectations passed down by family, culture, or society. These structures help us navigate the world, but over time, they can also become limitations. The dark night begins when those structures start to dissolve. What once defined you begins to loosen its grip. The old certainties fall away, leaving space that feels unfamiliar and, at times, uncomfortable. But this emptiness is not meaningless. It is preparation, just as a sculptor removes pieces of stone to reveal the form hidden inside. The dark night removes the layers of identity that are not truly you. It asks you to release the need for external validation. It invites you to discover who you are when the noise of expectation grows quiet. This process is rarely easy. There may be moments when you feel lost, disconnected, or uncertain about where your path is leading. But within this darkness, something powerful is happening. Your inner compass is being recalibrated. The deeper wisdom within you, the part that knows truth beyond surface appearances, is slowly beginning to awaken. In the absence of familiar answers, you begin to listen more carefully. You begin to trust the subtle guidance that comes from stillness rather than noise, and gradually, the darkness begins to reveal its purpose. The dark night strips away illusions. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. Most importantly, it teaches you that your true sense of self does not depend on external circumstances. When the external world becomes quiet, you are invited to rediscover the light that exists within you. This light is not loud or dramatic. It does not shout for attention. It is steady. It is calm. And it grows stronger each time you choose to trust the process rather than fear it. Many people who pass through the dark night later describe it as one of the most transformative periods of their lives. What once felt like loss eventually reveals itself as liberation. They emerge with a deeper understanding of themselves. Their priorities become clearer. Their compassion for others grows stronger, and their sense of peace no longer depends on whether life is easy or difficult. The darkness did not destroy them. It refined them. If you ever find yourself walking through such a season, remember this. Night does not last forever. Even the longest night eventually gives way to dawn. And when the first light appears on the horizon, you will realize that the person standing in that new day is not the same person who entered the darkness. You will be stronger, wiser, more deeply rooted in truth, because the dark night of the soul was never meant to extinguish your light. It was meant to help you discover that the light was within you all along. Chapter 7. Resilience of the Spirit. Resilience is often misunderstood. Many people imagine resilience as toughness, the ability to push through hardship without emotion, without hesitation, without ever appearing weak. Society sometimes praises the image of the person who never bends, never slows down, and never admits pain. But true resilience is not about pretending the storm does not hurt. True resilience is the ability to continue growing because of the storm, not in spite of it. It is the quiet strength that allows a person to fall, reflect, adjust, and rise again with greater wisdom. Resilience is not rigid, it is adaptive. Life constantly changes, circumstances shift, plans evolve, and unexpected challenges appear when we least expect them. A resilient spirit understands that survival and growth depend on flexibility, the willingness to learn from experience rather than resist it. Every challenge contains information. A setback may reveal a skill that needs strengthening. A delay may provide time to prepare more carefully. A loss may open space for something new to enter your life. Resilient people are not immune to hardship. They feel disappointment, grief, and frustration, and just like everyone else. The difference is that they do not allow those experiences to define their future. Instead, they ask a powerful question: what can I learn from this moment? That question transforms difficulty into opportunity. Throughout history, many of the individuals who made the greatest impact on the world did not live easy lives. Their journeys were often filled with obstacles, failures, and moments of uncertainty. Yet those experiences became the very forces that shaped their character. Pressure refines strength. Just as muscles grow stronger when they are challenged, the human spirit grows stronger when it is tested. Each obstacle forces us to expand our capacity for patience, courage, and determination. Over time, resilience becomes a kind of inner foundation. You begin to trust your ability to navigate challenges because you have done it before. You remember the storms you once believed would break you, and how, somehow, you found your way through them. This memory becomes a quiet source of confidence. You realize that setbacks are not permanent. You understand that growth often takes place in stages, and that progress sometimes appears slowly, almost invisibly, until one day you look back and see how far you have come. Resilience also deepens compassion. When you have experienced hardship, you develop a deeper understanding of others who are struggling. The walls of judgment soften, replaced by empathy and patience. Your own storms become bridges that connect you to the shared human experience. And perhaps the most powerful aspect of resilience is the meaning it creates. When challenges are connected to purpose, they no longer feel random or meaningless. They become part of a larger journey of becoming, shaping you into someone capable of wisdom, strength, and service to others. Resilience allows you to look at adversity and say, "This moment may be difficult, but it is not the end of my story. It is simply another chapter in the process of becoming who I am meant to be." And with each challenge you face, something remarkable happens. Your confidence grows quieter but deeper. Your perspective becomes wider. Your spirit becomes steadier. Eventually, you realize that resilience is not something you must search for outside yourself. It has been forming within you through every challenge you have ever faced. Every time you chose to keep going. Every time you learned from failure. Every time you rose again after falling. The storm may shape you, but it does not define you, because within the human spirit lives an incredible truth. No matter how strong the wind becomes, the soul has an extraordinary capacity to endure, to adapt, and to rise again. And that quiet, powerful strength within you is called resilience. Chapter 8: A Gratitude in the Rain. Gratitude is often associated with moments of abundance. When life is going well, when relationships are strong, opportunities are flowing, and the future looks bright, it feels natural to appreciate what we have. Gratitude comes easily when the sky is clear, but the deepest form of gratitude is discovered during a very different kind of moment. It is discovered in the rain. When life becomes difficult, gratitude may seem almost impossible. Pain, uncertainty, or disappointment can narrow our focus until all we see is what has gone wrong. The mind begins listing every problem, every worrying, every loss, and when our attention rests only on these things, the world can begin to feel heavy and overwhelming. Yet within even the most difficult seasons of life, something meaningful often remains. A small moment of kindness, a lesson that reveals itself slowly, a quiet strength within you that you didn't know existed. Gratitude does not require a perfect life. It requires awareness. When you choose to look beyond the storm clouds, you may begin to notice that even in the middle of hardship, life is still offering gifts. Perhaps the storm has slowed you down long enough to reflect on what truly matters. Perhaps it has revealed the people who stand beside you when life is not easy. Perhaps it has helped you appreciate simple things that once went unnoticed. A moment of peace, a kind word, the quiet beauty of an ordinary day. Gratitude expands perception. Instead of focusing only on what has been taken away, you begin to see what still remains. This shift may seem small, but it has powerful effects. Psychologically and emotionally, gratitude changes the way the mind processes experience. It gently redirects attention from scarcity to possibility, from fear to appreciation. Even in difficult circumstances, gratitude can create a sense of balance. It reminds us that life is rarely composed entirely of darkness or light. Often, both exist at the same time. The rain may fall, but somewhere beyond the clouds, the sun is still present. When you practice gratitude during challenging moments, you are not denying your pain. You are not pretending that hardship does not exist. Instead, you are choosing to acknowledge that life still holds value, even in its imperfect and uncertain forms. This awareness strengthens the spirit. It builds emotional resilience. And over time, gratitude becomes more than a reaction to positive events. It becomes a way of seeing the world. You begin to notice growth where you once saw only struggle. You begin to recognize opportunity where you once saw only delay. You begin to trust that even storms have a role in nourishing the deeper roots of your life. Think of how rain works in nature. To someone caught outside in a storm, rain can feel inconvenient or uncomfortable, but beneath the soil, that same rain is feeding seeds, strengthening roots, and preparing the landscape for future growth. Without rain, the earth cannot flourish. Without challenge, the human spirit rarely reaches its full depth. Gratitude allows you to recognize that every season, even the difficult ones, contributes something meaningful to your journey. And when you learn to appreciate life not only during the sunshine, but also during the rain, something powerful happens. Your sense of peace no longer depends on perfect circumstances. Your joy becomes quieter but stronger. You begin to move through life with a steady awareness that even in the midst of storms, there is always something worth appreciating, a lesson, a connection, a moment of growth. And sometimes, the rain that once felt like an obstacle becomes the very thing that nourishes the next beautiful chapter of your life. Because when gratitude grows within the heart, even the storm begins to reveal its hidden blessings. Chapter 9. Rewriting the narrative. The story you tell yourself about your life has incredible power. When something difficult happens, it is easy to fall into the pattern of seeing yourself as a victim. The narrative begins quietly at first. Why me? This shouldn't be happening. And if that story continues to play on repeat, it begins to shape your reality. You feel smaller. You feel powerless. You lose sight of your strength. But every challenge holds another story, a story you may not have considered. One that shifts your perspective from suffering to growth. One that turns obstacles into opportunities. One that transforms chaos into curriculum. Life is neutral. Events themselves are neither good nor bad. It is the meaning we assign to them that determines how we experience them. The heartbreak, the failure, the unexpected loss. Each of these moments is a blank page. You are the author. The difference lies in the lens you choose. Do you write, "I am cursed. This is unfair. I will never recover"? Or do you write, "I am being shaped, guided, and prepared for something greater"? Every transformative person in history, every spiritual teacher, every resilient human being has discovered this power. They understood that adversity is not merely punishment or misfortune. It is an assignment, a lesson carefully designed to awaken strength, wisdom, and clarity. When you reframe your narrative, you reclaim your power. Suddenly, life's challenges no longer feel like random attacks. They become signposts. They reveal areas where courage is needed, where growth is possible, where the soul is ready to expand. You begin to see the storm not as a thief, but as a teacher, not as an enemy, but as an invitation. Rewriting the narrative does not mean denying reality. Pain still exists, loss still happens, fear still visits, but your interpretation shifts. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become the conscious observer and the intentional participant in your own life. With this perspective, challenges transform, setbacks become feedback, failures become stepping stones, delays become lessons in patience. Even loss becomes a doorway to deeper understanding and empathy. The story you tell yourself shapes not just how you experience life, but how you move forward in it. And here is the quiet truth. Every moment you choose a higher narrative, you strengthen your spirit, you expand your capacity to endure, to grow, and to thrive. You stop being tossed by every storm and begin steering your inner ship, no matter how wild the sea becomes. When you finally realize that you are the narrator, you also realize that meaning is not something life hands to you. It is something you create. And in that creation lies freedom. The storm does not have to control you. You can control the story of how you walk through it. And in that story, you may discover that every challenge was never meant to break you. It was meant to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more awake than you ever imagined. Chapter 10: Becoming the Calm. There comes a point in every journey through life's storms when something remarkable begins to happen. The chaos no longer controls you. The fear no longer paralyzes you. The uncertainty no longer shakes your core. You have moved beyond simply surviving the storm. You have begun becoming it, in its highest form. This is not a transformation of circumstance. The winds may still rage, the rain may still fall, the thunder may still roar, but within you, a profound stillness has taken root. This stillness is not passive. It is not numbness. It is presence, awareness, the quiet knowing that whatever happens, you are grounded in something unshakable. Across centuries and traditions, spiritual masters have described this state. Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath a Bodhi tree and discovered the calm within the eye of life's storms. Marcus Aurelius reflected that the external world could not disturb the serenity of a disciplined mind, and countless ordinary people, tested by trials, have quietly realized the same truth. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the mastery of your response to it. When you cultivate this inner calm, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting to the storm in fear or resistance. Instead, you meet it with wisdom, patience, and discernment. You no longer carry the storm inside you. You carry steadiness, and the ripple effect is profound. Your calm becomes a refuge for others. Your presence becomes a source of reassurance. Your words carry weight, not because they control outcomes, but because they convey understanding, clarity, and courage. This is spiritual mastery, not in a dramatic display, but in the quiet, unwavering capacity to remain rooted while the world shifts around you. Becoming the calm also means embracing life fully, without clinging to certainty. You trust that even when events seem overwhelming, there is a deeper current guiding you. You know that you have survived storms before, and that survival has strengthened you in ways no comfort ever could. The storm is powerful, but the calm within you is more powerful still. Each breath becomes a reminder. You are alive. You are present. You are awake, and in this presence, you begin to see what was hidden during the storm. Opportunities, insights, and connections that were invisible before. You begin to navigate life with clarity, intention, and courage. One day, someone else will enter their own storm, unsure, frightened, and searching for guidance, and you will stand beside them, calm, steady, and unshakable. You will not take the storm away, but your presence will show them that storms can be faced, endured, and transformed. This is the gift of becoming the calm, the ability to turn your experiences, your struggles, and your growth into a living example of hope. The storm may rage, life may challenge you again and again, but now you know the truth. You are not just surviving, you are becoming. You are the stillness within the chaos, the center of the hurricane, the quiet power that cannot be destroyed. And when you walk through life carrying this calm, the world itself begins to shift around you. Conclusion: the gift hidden in thunder. The storm was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your sculptor, your awakening. For so long, you may have feared it, feared that the winds would break you, that the rain would drown you, that the thunder would silence you. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still becoming. Through every trial, every heartbreak, every moment of uncertainty, you have discovered a profound truth. Hardship does not define you, it reveals you. The storms of life strip away the superficial, the temporary, and the illusory. They remove what you are not. So, you can recognize what you truly are. And what you are is stronger than you imagined, wiser than you knew, more resilient than you believed possible. Spiritual enlightenment is not found in escaping difficulty. It is discovered in walking through it consciously with awareness, surrender, courage, and compassion. It is found in noticing your own growth when the world feels unsteady. It is found in standing firm in the eye of chaos and saying, I am here. I am present. I am becoming. When the next storm arrives, as it inevitably will, remember what you have learned. You have felt the wind. You have endured the rain. You have survived the thunder. And through it all, you have not only endured, you have transformed. Your pain has become wisdom. Your struggle has become strength. Your journey has become guidance, not just for yourself, but for anyone who sees your calm and remembers that it is possible to rise. The storm did not come to end your story. It came to elevate it. It came to reveal the unshakable presence that has always existed within you. So now you walk forward, not afraid of the clouds, but grateful for the rain, not waiting for life to be easy, but ready to meet it fully, consciously, and courageously. Enlightenment through the storm is not a destination. It is the way you live. It is the way you respond. It is who you become when you refuse to be broken. And that power has been within you all along.